Good morning. Welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning, Saturday morning. Yes, the big kick-off, the damp squid. That's what the SPFL kick-off is today, isn't it? It's just a complete damp squid. There's nothing to get excited about. The fixtures today, which I think are completely bizarre. 3 o'clock kick-off, Kilmarnock take on Livingston. The season opener. Yeah. The season opener, a 2025-26 season, at 3 o'clock today, is Kilmarnock Livingston. And then we have Motherwell Sevco on the telly and on Sky at 5:30 tonight. And then tomorrow we have a televised game, 2 o'clock, Falkirk Dundee United. And then Dundee take on Hibernian. That game's on a Sunday because Hibernian were in Europa, or they were in Europe on Thursday, so that's why that game's on Sunday. And then 4:30 we have Celtic, of course, taking on St Mirren. That should be the start of the season. That game should be the opener. The Flag Day should always be the champions from last year opening the start of the season, opening the campaign, welcoming everyone back to Scottish football, raising the flag, nod to last year. Let's move on. But no, it's at 4:30 on a Sunday. And then on Monday, we've got the final game of the weekend. Hearts versus Aberdeen. An 8 o'clock kickoff. Scottish football just needs to get its act together, because there's just no thought for fans at all with those kickoff times. I mean, the first game of the season for Aberdeen fans having to travel down on a Monday night. On a Monday night all the way down to Edinburgh. Down to the land of whores, puffs and junkies, as they used to say in the song back in the 1980s. Anyway, good morning. Michelle's got her first coupon of the season on already. Jesus. There is a lot of Celtic fans not really happy with the... Paul, how are you this morning? You'll be glad that it's the final season of Brendan Rodgers then. Oh, we do love that, don't we? Anyway, the Scottish Premier season, the BBC have took to their predictions, and all of Willie Miller has said that Celtic, reigning champions, have the strongest squad with top-class proven manager, will win the league. Rangers will finish second with a new coach, new owners, new investment. They're just runners-up at worst. Aberdeen, they can't cope with European football and the trials and tribulations of Scottish football. That's shown last year. I think it was European football that kind of held Aberdeen back, and the squad wasn't big enough. Willie Miller's going for Dundee relegated. Wouldn't mind if Dundee got relegated. Surprise package, he says, will be Falkirk. I think you're right there. I think Falkirk will hold their own, as will Scott Brown's team next year when they come up. Julie Fleeting, former Scotland striker, says that Celtic will win the lead. Their squad strength compared to the rest, financially they can add to the squad. Well, let's not talk about transfer windows. And she reckons that Dundee will get relegated. Also, Michael Stewart says Celtic will win the league. You're still looking for a main striker. Are we? Are we really? I'm beginning to doubt that we're looking for another striker. I am beginning to doubt that we are looking for another striker. I think that we're going to go with Adamida, Shin Yamada and Callum Osmond. I've still got a funny feeling that they're going to loan out Johnny Kenny. But I think Johnny Kenny's the better player when it comes to him and Callum Osmond, but we'll wait and see. Anyway, Michael Stewart also reckons that he says it's impossible to say until we get a chance to see the sides who will get relegated. He says the surprise package will be Motherwell. Motherwell brought in 5 new players and made their squad stronger, even though that they know that they're going to lose a certain Scottish young star. I still think that they will be far improved for last year. Former Falkirk striker Rory Loy says that Celtic will win the league. Champions have work to do on the squad as it stands. We all know that. Even Brendan Rodgers said it yesterday. But Brendan Rodgers is the best manager in the league, and I don't see any other winner. But for how long? Stephen Craigan, former Motherwell defender, says the reigning champions have the best players, the deepest squad. As Brendan Rodgers as manager, they will win the league with him as manager. Yeah, there's no doubting that we could win the league, but I think when it comes to the interview yesterday, and I think that it is all about, John says, Baz, I've never heard Celtic manager speak like Brendan in that, let's back him as long as there's our man. Yeah, John, that's why I called the video Back the Team, because I think it's one of those seasons that a truth bomb was dropped. I think it was yesterday there was a big truth bomb dropped. You know, Brendan Rodgers is great at giving out love bombs to the media and telling people, but what I will say with the Brendan Rodgers situation, look, I've said it right through this transfer window, right up to the beginning of the season. I said, do a comparison. Watch the videos from last year when he was in America and how he pointed out Nicholson and Mackay in America last year. The split was starting to show. The tension was starting to show last summer. And as a football club, is there a time scale on any manager? Does a manager at Celtic, and that's why the thumbnail is, it's the reality. Thumbnail, so the reality for Celtic FC, and the fans need to get on board, is the thumbnail. Is the reality that any manager that comes into Celtic has a lifespan of 3 years, and he can be the best manager in the world, and he could come in and he can win doubles, he can win trebles, but ultimately, for the sake of his own mentality, his own mental health, his own sanity, do managers get to the third season at Celtic and think, I can't take this club any further? And I don't want this to turn into a manager versus board dig at each other. And I just think it's maybe us as fans need to get with the show. And that's it. Do we need to get with the show? Do we need to sort of open the book and read from the same page as the board? Which I thought I would never say, because I detest so many of the Tories that are on the board and the Labour sellouts that are on the board. The way that we're acting, you would think they're skint. Yeah, exactly, but we're not skint. But what I'm saying is, it's obvious that the board, it's kind of came out yesterday that the board are blaming Brendan Rodgers for the price tags of players that we bought last season. Now, Brendan Rodgers has no influence at all on the price tag of a player. That comes down to the negotiating skills of Michael Nicholson. Now, if we paid over the odds for Adam Eder, that was Michael Nicholson's fault. And it was Peter Lawwell's son's fault, because you've got to remember it was Peter Lawwell's son that done the deal. And he never got in an agreement to buy the player at £3.5 million, which he was valued at that transfer window. If we had went into Norwich in that January and said, we'll give you £3 million for Adam Eder, they would have bit our hands off. But instead we took him on loan with no option to buy and no obligation to buy, which then put us in an awfully sticky situation when a certain young, well, he wasn't young, but when a certain Kyogo Furiashi's shoulder got done in again, and Norwich went, aye, Celtic are struggling for strikers. Let's push them as far as we can and see if they take it. But anyway, I read Rodgers saying that the board, if the board show ambition and back him, he's happy to extend his contract. If you listen to Brendan Rodgers' interview yesterday, I mean, he did say that, it isn't a two-way thing, really. It's not about if they offer him. They haven't, as it stands, Celtic have not offered Brendan Rodgers a new contract. There's no contract on the table. There's nothing to sign. At this moment, there is completely nothing to sign. And I think that Michael Nicholson, being the man management type of person that he is, will turn around, and as they do at any high-level meeting, they would turn around and they would look at the KPIs, the key performance indicators. Let's get business talk like they do. and they would look at the key performance indicators, and they would turn around to Brendan and say, right, you never won the Scottish Cup. You failed on one of your targets. And Brendan Rodgers would say, well, if you'd got us in the striker that we needed after selling Kyogo Furiashi, it might have given us that little bit of strength and depth in the squad to carry us on to the end of the season. And the Celtic board would go, you spent the best part of 30 odd 40 million or whatever it was last season. That should have been enough to win every single competition in Scotland. That's what Nicholson would say. Meanwhile, Dermot Desmond would just sit in between the two of them like a boxing referee, just watching them. Whilst what they would be as well doing is they would be as well sitting at opposite ends of the table with a chessboard in the middle, and they would be better playing chess. And because I think just now Celtic are at a stalemate. I think that's the way that I see Celtic at the moment. They're at a stalemate with the way that the manager wants to take the club as manager, and the reluctance from the board. On the morning that we've just heard that Mikul Balwisha is in talks with another club, and it looks like that Celtic will miss out on the 24-year-old. There's reports coming out that he is in talks with a French club. Tells you everything you know. He's been our number one target winger since God knows whenever. And it does seem to be that when Brendan Rodgers said yesterday, I'm obviously not doing enough to convince the board of the players that we need. A manager shouldn't need to convince the board. A manager should just be able to go to the board and say, please sir, can I have some more? The manager should just be able to go to Paul Tisdale, right, there's the players that I want, there's the players that we've agreed on that will make this squad stronger and better. Go and get the number one players that I want. That's the way that football used to work. But Celtic just, I mean, this. That's Celtic. And Rodgers lists the players. That's the reality of the situation. That is the reality of the situation. I think that Michael Nicholson just sits and rips it up and throws it over his shoulder and says, we'll get the players in that we want. Baz, he was always injured. Listen, there's been a number of players that we've bought over the years that haven't been in good form. Chris Sutton was woeful before he came to Celtic. John Hartson failed a medical because of his dodgy knee before he came to Celtic. You know, because he's always injured. Kieran Tierney, the last 5 seasons, always injured. You know, so just because I could see that a player is allegedly always injured, it doesn't mean Kyogo Furiashi, dodgy shoulder, always injured. You know, it's all about perspective, I suppose. But anyway, the main thing is we need to back the team more than ever. And this is a cry out to every fan that goes to games. Not just the ones that sit in 1-1-1 who are walking a tightrope this season. Walking a tightrope to see when they're going to get banned. And I think they'll get banned around about October. I think that the ban will kick in. The 3-month suspension will take us October, November time. The board like to ban the club about then, just as the sort of winter nights start coming in and it starts getting darker in about 4:30. Yeah, like just ban them for then. But anyway, I think that the fans need to get together more than ever. More than ever. You know, don't leave it up to section 111. Don't leave it to the section that the boys are in, the other side of the stadium. We need to really be a unit this season, more than ever. Because if it is Brendan Rodgers' last season, And if it is his last season, and the board are just happy in maintaining this current status of the club and going forward, don't know. Fact is that we're the most miserable, greed-ridden, unambitious football club in the world, says Mikul. Well, talking about that, let's jump over to the Celtic Twitter, because I noticed that Celtic were very reluctant yesterday to put out any information of the Brendan Rodgers interview. I mean, they put out Alistair Johnson's stuff after Alistair Johnson had his lengthy interview, and it was good to see what I want to see what the comments are. Some of the comments, September 25th. Buzzing for the new season to start. Hopefully our board get the treatment they deserve on Sunday. Dermot and his club belongs to us, not you. I'm not sure the board have a special welcome flag on Flag Day. Let them know exactly what we think of them. Do you know, Desmond out, back the team, sack the board, started already. Please don't start Adamida, striker needed. Do you know, it's that Friday feeling. Chris Sutton, really looking forward to Scottish Football Premier League starting up this weekend. Lots of games Sky, but let's have your top 6. And then there was the match day. There was nothing about Brendan Rodgers, and that's unusual from Celtic. It's unusual. I mean, Celtic did put out match day guide. They put out the fact that there's Paradise Windfall super draw. You can win £15,000 at the half-time draw. But when it comes to the manager, they put a lot of it out. We have to be fast, get them all moving, press really quick. The manager previews Sunday game opener at Paradise in the media conference. Do you know, that's not really how the media conference went, was it? It didn't. The big talking point of the conference, we have to be fast, we have to get the ball moving quickly and counter press really well. The manager previews Sunday Paradise opener at Paradise. That's not really how it went, was it? He also wants players to move the club forward, but proper players, not just cheap deals. He also said this: let's not pretend this is normal. He will leave, and if all you want is the league, he wants to fight more in the Champions League football. Do the club. Sack this clown and get Big Ange back. Big Ange, who left the club for the exact same reasons that Brendan Rodgers will leave the club. Lack of ambition. Let's not pretend that Ange Postecoglou moves because he's seen the riches of the big money that he could make. Yes, that was part of it. But he also knew that he took the club as far as he can. His comments, Ange Postecoglou, and the fact that Ange said he'll never come back, makes sense when we refuse to sign fast players. In fact, refuse to sign players in general. We are even delaying the announcement of a 19-year-old loan centre-back. You cunts can drag out until Sunday. Fuck you, sack the board. Turn it out. Sign some fucking players. Sack the board. So you can see the way that the Celtic fans are starting to see this. The board are complete charlatans. Rinsing fans, giving very little in return. Maintaining standards isn't progress. It's just standing still. Get a grip, Celtic. I need a high tempo right through the game. Stop trying to walk it in. If you don't shoot, you don't score. That's it. Really looking forward to Sunday. Can't wait to see Lawwell and Nicholson. Know how much we appreciate them. This is why they brought in Paul McStay. The board will not enter the field of play. The board will not enter the field of play this weekend. But as I don't blame Big Ange for leaving, neither do us. The board signed quality, Rodgers will sign. That's exactly what he said at the presser. I'm not too sure. Not too sure at all. Seriously. Not too sure at all. But anyway, we move on. We digress. The season as we see it, is about to start. It is about to start, and we can only hope that the new formation, Celtic to cash in on sack the board merchandise. Don't say that, Michelle. That's the kind of thing that they would do. You've got to remember when the Green Brigade did the fan paid for tifo for the 125th anniversary, the night against Barcelona, when the Green Brigade, let's not pretend it was anything to do with Celtic, it was the Green Brigade, and the Green Brigade raised money through donations by the fans to do a full stadium tifo that night. And Celtic milked that and merchandised that to absolute the hilt. Do you know, they see the Green Brigade for their use at times when it comes to merchandise and being able to milk it. But then there's other times they're like, well, you're on a 3-month suspended because you put up a poster of Michael Nicholson that basically said, Nicholson, you're a prick. But anyway, Scotland don't give, we're laughing after them, we'll beat them later. Yeah. Jose Mourinho will be our next manager. Mark, not at all. We will not go down the road of a big name manager. The best manager we can hope to try and get at Celtic will be Benitez. Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, the board needs sacked, penny pinching ambition. Lies stories. Morning Baz, if Celtic go with this team, Celtic will not win the league in both cups, and plus Rodgers will go in January. He won't go in January, James. He won't go in January. I think that his announcement yesterday that he would be here for the 3 years minimum. It'd be three years minimum. I've said that all along. I said way back, even the first year, the first months, when people will say that he would walk within a season and a half, he'll walk within 2 seasons. I said that he wouldn't. He wouldn't dare do that again. And he doesn't want to. Coming back to Celtic was a hard decision for him because he knew the backlash and he knew that he wasn't going to get the reception that he got the first time that he came back. Hence the reason that he stood on the doorsteps of Celtic Park with around about 200 or 300 people. And he knew that he had a lot to prove. He knew he had to win back the fan base. And he said to them, look, for those who think I should not be here, come back in May. There we go. Come back in May. And he's maintained all the time that he would stay the 3 years. I think that he has every right to walk away at the end of the 3 years, whether or not Celtic back him or not, because I think that the damage has already been done when it comes to the way that the club see the club being run from a financial perspective to the way that the manager would like to see progress on the pitch. Those two aren't coming together anytime soon. Do you know, there's the only way to look at it, there's been a parting of the sea, and it wasn't Dermot Desmond that was standing and you know, as the parting of the sea. It's another way to look at it. Brendan Rodgers is on one side of the river, Michael Nicholson is on the other bank of the river, and there's no bridge within 10,000 miles. And it is the biggest, fiercest river ever that's never been crossed by man. And that's it. That's the only way to look at it. And maybe it is time for us as fans to have that little bit of a reality check that a manager does have a time limit at Celtic. Do you know that a manager can only keep on going so far before his ambitions aren't met and before the fans or the board say, nah, you're just not doing it for us anymore. And it generally comes from the fans, not the board, unless it's somebody like Tony Mowbray, who was absolutely woeful. And hope to God that we don't go down that road again. Because now that we know And this is where it will be interesting for Celtic. That we know that there is a point of the season which is going to be no return. I don't think that... would it be healthy? Right, here's a poll. The the board is won by Brendan. Right? Okay. Would, not will. Would. Now, take this into consideration. Me in and Scott Brown as my assistant. Knowing that the way that the board works, knowing the way that this is going, it looks like there will be a new manager next season. Would it be prudent to wait until the end of the season before we start looking for a new manager? Or should it start now? Should Celtic start the search and names for a brand new manager now for next season? No way am I saying that Brendan Rodgers will walk before the end of the season. This is for next season. Should the board be looking at prospect managers for next season as a business? From a business point of view, for me, yes. If it's my business, if I'm Dermot Desmond, I'm now saying to the board, get me a list of top 5 managers that we could possibly bring in next summer. Possibly. Any decent business has to do that. So would it be prudent to wait to the end of the season? 26% say yes, 74% say no. No, it wouldn't. I'm in the no camp. I think that if Brendan Rodgers has set his stall out, the board have set their stall out, the board, they won't do it because they'll see it as an effect. Big clubs do it. Big clubs announce that managers won't be. Barcelona do it. Real Madrid have done it. Do you know, they announced that there will be a new manager next season. Big clubs do it. And I think that if Celtic see themselves as a big club, they need to make that announcement early. That we are looking for a new manager for next season. Don't know. It never takes away from the way that the squad plays. The players will play their heart out. The manager will give 100%. But the club, if the club want a bit of... There's a thought. Would you respect the board more? Tell me in the comments for this one. Would you respect the board more if the club came out and said, around about March, we are now undertaking the search for the manager for next season? Would you respect the board more for that? Yes or no in the comments. And a manager of some repute will not touch this job with the Bars. Well, yeah, I said that last night in the live, Chris. Just give it to someone with ginger hair in the shower. Wee man Sham, don't. Because I can remember that day and being on the bus, sitting, waiting to drive away from Hampden, and the atmosphere on the bus just went... It was like Celtic knew how to killjoy winning a Scottish Cup. It was like you were up here, we just won the Scottish Cup, and then we just went poof. It was like, and you're looking at all the other buses and everyone's the same. And then folk walking up the side, they were all shouting, and it was like, fucking joking, man. They've just given Neil Lennon the job in the shower. What the fuck? Only a new board will get my respect. I won't ever respect this board. Nightmare day. Yeah, it was a nightmare day, wasn't it? It was oh man, the joys of being a Celtic fan. In this transfer window, we've lost only one key player, Kuhn. The rest were backup players being punted. We are stronger but lacking key areas. You've just kind of... You've said we're stronger but lacking key areas. So we're either stronger or we're not stronger, mate. You can keep on banging on that the squad's stronger. It's not. And Brendan Rodgers says it's not stronger. And I'll go with the manager. You can keep banging on every day in the comments saying that we're stronger. We're not. The manager's no making shit up. Do you know what I mean? The squad isn't stronger. No respect at all for the board. Dan Cassis says, that's the truth, of course, Baz. I won't respect the board who backs police against the fans. This is true. I'd respect them if they spent money on quality players and showed respect to the fans. That's never going to happen, is it? We're just paying customers. I mean, let's look at where we are at this point of the season. We've brought in... There's been announcement after announcement after announcement of merchandise over the summer. All factual evidence. It's all facts. We're the day before the first Friday, the first press conference, and it's the one that we've been waiting for all pre-season. And I think it was more explosive and more of a reality check than any of us expected. I don't think any of us expected Brendan Rodgers to just go, well, I'm just going to tell you how it is. This is where we're at. I don't think any of us... I think a lot of people maybe thought that Brendan Rodgers would go down the line of, we're still trying to get players in. I wish the board would work a bit faster. When it comes to my contract, that will be taken care of whenever. But he didn't. He didn't try and put a spin on it. He didn't try and hide anything. He didn't try and deflect. You know, he spoke about the reality of the situation, which none of us, we're not stronger because we didn't replace Kyogo. Offloading deadwood and not investing isn't strength. The board has been in the same for 2 decades and the fans still moan about them. And that's why I said at the beginning, back the team. Look at the thumbnail. Look at the thumbnail for the video. The thumbnail for the video says the reality for Celtic FC and the fans need to get on board. The reality is that we can keep going through managers, but there's an expectation level. There's an expectation level that where do we want to go, and is it the case of going back to all those years ago when Peter Lawwell proclaimed that the objective for Celtic Football Club is the dominance of Scottish football? End of. It wasn't about bringing any kind of European run. It wasn't about bringing success on a European level. It wasn't about trying to get to the later stages of the Champions League. It was about just getting into the Champions League, getting the money for the Champions League, doing well, having a wee jolly, getting 3 or 4 wee trips away. Now that's more than that. And taking the money, keeping a bit of money for the seasons that we're not in the Champions League and we miss out, and we'll keep extra money behind just for those periods. But the main objective and the only objective of Celtic Football Club PLC is to be dominant in Scottish football. The year is 2025. It's been a successful 25 years. You cannot take that away from them. But I have said, and this hasn't been the first time that I've said it, is success in Scotland, is trebles enough for us as fans? Losing 10 in a row. What if we'd won the 10 in a row? What if we'd won, right? Say fans were allowed back in that season. And Sevco couldn't handle it when fans are there. And, they didn't send their COVID tests to Belfast to get their COVID test done. And say it was a normal season and Celtic won. And we won 10 in a row. What's the objective now? Because all I see now is that we're back on the treadmill of, we're going for 5 in a row this year. The fans, the closer that we get to the 5 in a row, we'll get fans motivated. They're going, here we go, 10 in a row here. Is that the objective, to get to the 10? And then that's it? Do you know, is there not that objective to try and do better in Europe? Is there not that objective to try and get a decent run in Europe until the later stages of a competition? Whether it be the Champions League or whether it be, do you know what, if we drop down into the Europa, will a good run in the Europa League be classed as a success? Or just a fucking pain in the arse fucking by the board that are thinking, we'll take the money, but it's the main objective is just to be dominant in Scottish football. And is that healthy? Is that healthy? I don't know. To make money, you've got to spend. We want to progress in the Champions League. We've got to buy better players. We are just scunnered. We need to wake up. Brendan has played it smart. He knows the fans will turn on the board if they don't sign quality. Things could get nasty. I don't think it'll get nasty. I think that the fan base are far too placid. They're far too, you know what, it's fucking, if Brendan goes, so what, we get another manager in, we keep going, we keep winning the league. And I think that's honestly where if you break people down enough, you know, these people, there's people at the club who are very political minded, even though we're not allowed to be political at the club and you're not allowed to talk about anything political, but the people that run the club are very political minded. If we won the 10, Lenny would still be manager. No, he wouldn't. He would have walked after the 10. He would have won. I want to win the Europa League. Yeah, I think that should be. Players don't want to play in Scotland to win the UEFA Cup. You think so? I mean, Brendan Rodgers, Baz, it will get nasty if we don't get in the Champions League. Trust me, it will get nasty. Do we have the fan base and the motivation? The badge will always be bigger than the name on the back and whoever is in charge. Yeah, it will be. But I'm of a certain age where we had a board that had a vision for Celtic. And it was to take Celtic away from Celtic Park and take us over to Cumberslang and be all fanciful. And they were going the wrong way. Do you know, they weren't... And it was time for change. Fans got together. Fans forced change. That's what we do at Celtic. And it's okay forcing the change of managers, you know... When you look back at the Ronnie Dyler years, that was a period they managed decline. The people upstairs knew that, so they then had to go and bring in a high quality manager in Brendan Rodgers to fill the stand again, make everybody happy. There, we'll sprinkle a little bit of dust on it, a little bit of nice gold dust on top, and Brendan Rodgers. That'll get them spending money. We'll get the bank balance straight back up. And then when he says, I'm going to leave at the end of this season, Peter Lawwell took the first 10 million that came along. And I think Brendan Rodgers has been very clever this time, because he is not saying this time that he wants to leave at the end of the season. That's the difference between this time and last time Brendan Rodgers was manager. He will not turn around to the board and say, I want to leave at the end of the season. He's been very, very clever this time. Very clever. Baz, it's time to sign a manager or a coach for 5 years and build a team. That will never happen at Celtic. And if we go down the road of bringing in a first team coach, maybe that's why Tisdale's been brought in. Maybe that's why Sean Maloney's been brought in. Maybe that's the way that Celtic are ultimately going to go. And then that then leads to say is a first team coach doesn't have any power. And is that what... That's what we've done to Brendan Rodgers. We've taken away the power as a manager. Anyway, I'm going to say we need to keep Dyson. Yeah, we need to keep Dyson more than anything. My fear now is that someone... Yeah, the fans had to go Tonto to get the board out, and Ferguson, happy clappers, achieved nothing. Is there far too many happy clappers at the club in the modern day? I think so. I think that there's too many of these fanciful lounges round about Celtic Park that are happy to be sitting in their leather seat and happy to get a pint at half time, happy to get a sandwich, happy to get free sandwiches, free cakes, free pies at half time, to get the team sheet when it comes out an hour and 15 minutes before, and just sit there and say, oh, that's fucking Celtic, it's fucking great. Fair play. I think there's too many people like that at Celtic now, and it has lost the togetherness of the fan base. The fan base at Celtic has always been a weird fan base because the structure of the fan base at Celtic through the Celtic Supporters Association, I dealt with that for years when I ran the Joseph Rafferty bus, and the fragmentation of the fan base because you've got different people with different ideas from all over the country. It's not just people that are based in Glasgow. It's not like a Newcastle United where everybody is in Newcastle. Everyone supports the fan. Middlesbrough, it's a one-team city. You could say Aberdeen to a certain extent, But anyway, we move on. Sean Maloney at Arbroath last night. He'll be the next manager. I think Sean Maloney he's only there looking at young players. He'll not be the next manager. Sean Maloney will not be the next manager. Not a chance. He's only there to look at B team players. If they won't back Rodgers, they won't back any manager in the future, says Martin. Yeah, I kind of get that, but I'm looking for one more vote just to finish off on the usual. Would it be prudent to wait until the end of the season before we start looking for a new manager? 30% say yes. Great business acumen from the 30%. 70% say no. And who's going to give me one more vote? Scott Brown for next season. Nope, Scott Brown will not be the next manager of Celtic. I don't think Scott Brown will ever be the manager of Celtic. Would Celtic fans take an ex-Rangers player as... let's jump to... would Celtic fans seriously take an ex-Rangers player as their number 2? Because Scott Brown is going nowhere without his mate Whittaker. He's known Whittaker since they were kids. They've been best mates since they were teenagers. Maybe even before then, coming through the system at Hibs. Celtic fans would never take to that. Fail to plan means plan to fail, as they say. Come on, Celtic, get the finger out. Yep, Jerry, you're spot on, mate. You are spot on. Ange wasn't Irish. Football is not a working man's game anymore. It's all about the money and prawn sandwiches. Yeah, exactly. Kaiser, you get the last comment of the day. Spot on, Baz. Back the team, stay united as a support. And it is. That's my call and cry to the fans as we get ready to start a new season. Now, normally on a Saturday, I would do the full-time scores. But Scottish football's different. There's only one game that's got a fourth that has a 4:45 finish on the first day of the season. So I doubt I'll be doing a live at 4:45. Good old Scottish football. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world, and get into this fucking season and just let's do it for the sake of Brendan. Let's win a treble and go out on a high.